This place looks perfect until you live here. Hey guys, I'm Lucy Salem, your local real estate agent here in the South Bay of Los Angeles. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Manhattan Beach, but I have had buyers tell me and ask me a few questions about maybe why they wouldn't want to live in Manhattan Beach. So today, I thought I would share with you a couple of reasons why you may want to rethink moving to Manhattan Beach, and is that right decision for you and your family? So let's get to it. So everyone talks about Manhattan Beach like it's paradise. Obviously, we have the ocean views, cute streets, perfect weather. But here's the part no one really says out loud. Living here isn't always the dream people think of. And depending on your lifestyle, this place can quickly drive you crazy if you don't listen up. So before you pack up and move your life to Manhattan Beach, you need to hear the other side of the story. Because for some, moving here is the best decision they have ever made. And for others, it's an expensive mistake they don't admit until it's too late. So let's talk about why you may not want to move to Manhattan Beach. All right, let's talk about the cost, because the cost of living here in Manhattan Beach is, well, high. Let's start with the obvious one because it affects everything. Manhattan Beach is expensive. Everyone knows that, but most people underestimate how deep those expenses actually go. It's not just the insane home prices that we see all over. It's really everything. So if you're moving to Manhattan Beach, you just want to be conscientious of your budget. Groceries, dining out, services, even parking and permits, all of those things are just a little bit more expensive in Manhattan Beach than the other South Bay cities. And housing itself is on another level. You're not just paying for square footage. Honestly, you're paying for the location. You're right next to the ocean. But keep in mind, if you are looking in Manhattan Beach, you're not going to get these massive lots. It really is a tighter community. You're going to have homes that maybe are more, what we would say, more on top of each other. Again, don't forget, you're close to the ocean, which is why everyone likes to live in Manhattan Beach. But some of my buyers that are relocating to Manhattan Beach are very surprised about how close the homes are together and how much lack of the backyard there is. The other thing that you want to think about, in addition to the tighter layouts and is the less privacy. So, obviously it is a little bit more of a congested area, so the privacy isn't always there. So you might be imagining like spacious homes with the ocean breeze, but the reality is we have beautiful homes in Manhattan Beach, but some people, especially if you're moving from, let's say, the Midwest, might think that you're not getting, you're paying a little bit more for what you're getting in square footage. All right, so let's talk about the traffic, because we are in Los Angeles and the traffic in Manhattan Beach can still be a little bit crazy. One of the things that I want to touch on is the bikers. We do have a ton of bikers in the area. We have some narrow streets, so the traffic can be a little bit crazy during the rush hour times. Getting in and out of Manhattan Beach can feel like squeezing through, well, maybe a funnel. Major roads back up, especially during the school drop-off and pickup, and then the rush hours, like I mentioned before. Also, it's a tourist flood. Manhattan Beach is, like I said, amazing, but guess what? That means a ton of tourists are coming to visit, especially during those summer months. So if you like something that's maybe a little bit more quiet and private, Manhattan Beach might not be the best for you, because we do still get a lot of those tourists. Plus, we do have one of the nicest beaches here in the Los Angeles area. So when people hear of it, they come running to Manhattan Beach. So just like anywhere else in LA, really, that 5-mile drive can suddenly take 30 minutes. So you want to keep that in mind depending on what your commute might be to work or what you're doing for your lifestyle. Also, if traffic does cause you more stress, you may want to rethink that and maybe pick a different location. All right, so I know I mentioned this already, but let's talk about the privacy, because it is a little bit harder to find in Manhattan Beach. This can actually surprise a lot of people because it is the most expensive beach city in the South Bay that we have, but the privacy can be a little bit alarming. So it is like very exclusive, but homes are very close together. Backyards are often small or shared by sight lines. Second stories overlook neighbors and properties, and you can also hear your neighbors, and they can normally hear you. So if privacy matters to you, if you really want lots of land, maybe Manhattan Beach might not be right for you, especially when you're paying a premium and you still feel like you're living on top of each other. Now, obviously, there are people out there that doesn't bother them and they want that location. And so Manhattan Beach is the perfect beach city for them. Here's another thing to note. Not all of Manhattan Beach is this way, but some of it is a lot of short-term rentals or second homes. And so sometimes the sense of community can feel a little bit inconsistent. I will say that I don't necessarily 100% agree with it, but I have had people say, their neighbors are potentially rotating, maybe they're renters, but that real community neighborhood feel, sometimes people are a little bit alarmed by it, especially if you are moving from a neighborhood that maybe does a lot of block parties or a lot of community events. You might not find that all in every single neighborhood in Manhattan Beach. Okay, one of the biggest surprises that I find people need to hear is the weather. So yes, the weather is mild. I personally never check the weather. I don't know what the temperature is. It's just always lovely. However, let's talk about that marine layer. So in the mornings, it can feel a little bit gloomy. We have that marine layer in Manhattan Beach. So especially if you're expecting sunshine every single day, it doesn't always happen. Homes near the water can feel damp. And then also to note, salt air can impact your cars, your windows, your railings, the exterior finishes. So sometimes extra maintenance is real and it's ongoing. If you love bright mornings and warm evenings, you may be surprised at how often it's a little bit cooler and cloudier than expected, especially in the late spring and early summer. All right, so let's talk about the schools. The schools are highly rated here in Manhattan Beach. That's one of the biggest reasons why families move here. But high-performing schools often come with high expectations. There can be a little bit more pressure for the kiddos, maybe to compete or level up in some sort of way. Not every child thrives in that environment. So I always just like to tell the parents and educate my relocation buyers of what the schools are like in Manhattan Beach. They are phenomenal schools, but sometimes that competition, depending on what your kiddo really, how they learn really, it's just important to know. Okay, so I know I talked about tourists, but obviously the beach is amazing, but it is shared with everyone. So living near the beach sounds like a dream, and it is, but it also means crowds. So weekends, especially holidays, summers, the beach fills up fast. Parking gets a little bit tighter, noise increases, foot traffic spikes. Your quiet neighborhood can suddenly feel like a tourist destination. So if you imagine peaceful walks and empty sand year-round, that's not necessarily exactly what you're going to find in Manhattan Beach. It is hard to leave once you're in. Here's one more thing people don't think about. Once you buy in Manhattan Beach, upgrading becomes a little bit harder for some people. Prices are already high in this area, so moving up often means a massive jump in budget for only a small amount of improvement in the space or location. Some people feel a little bit stuck. They love the area but feel limited in what they can get for their money. That can be frustrating long term, depending on, if you have a growing family or you want to have family members move in, etc. But Manhattan Beach is not a bad place to live. So, a lot of times what I tell a lot of my sellers who are wanting to move up and upgrade, is depending on what they want, how does that compare to their current home that they live in right now? Now, I will say a lot of my buyers that move to Manhattan Beach, that's really a long-term commitment. They're looking for single family homes. They they really are at a place in their life where they either are newer, younger families, but they, are getting like 4 to 5 bedrooms, or they're at a stage where kiddos are going off to college and they just want, beach views. But it is something to think about. I mean, honestly, it's really all of South Bay, but today we're talking about Manhattan Beach. But it's something to really think about: is what's your strategy and what's your long-term plan? And that's something that I love talking to buyers about: is how are we going to leverage this property if you do ever want to move? But Manhattan Beach, for most people, it's the top of their budget. So you just need to be a little bit more, just need to have the right strategy in place, and just to understand what you're really looking for you and the people around you who potentially will be living with you. So who should think twice? Manhattan Beach is not a bad place to live. It's an incredible place for the right person. But you may want to rethink twice if you want more space or need more space, and maybe want some more privacy. And maybe if you hate the traffic and crowds and want more value for your money. When I say value, I mean your house value. Maybe if you prefer a more quieter or maybe lower pressure lifestyle, Manhattan Beach might not be for you. Maybe if you need more variety or spontaneity, maybe nearby. And this place rewards people who truly align with it. If you don't, it can quickly drain you while looking perfect from the outside. So here's the bottom line. Manhattan Beach is beautiful. It's desirable. Obviously, there's a reason why people love living here, and the housing prices are higher than a lot of other places. But beauty can come with some trade-offs, and ignoring those trade-offs is how people end up unhappy in places everyone else swears are perfect. So the smartest move isn't chasing the dream everyone talks about. It's choosing the place that actually fits your life. So I'm curious, is Manhattan Beach for you? Was this video helpful? I would love to either talk to you personally if Manhattan Beach is a place that you are thinking about moving to see if it would be a right fit. You can always reach me by phone, which my number is listed in the descriptions, or you can schedule a Calendly invite, and I would love to talk to you. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more real estate and tips and local insights on the South Bay market, and I will see you at the next video.